Meanwhile, a new Fox News poll finds that 78% of voters rate the condition of the economy as poor. Just 20% said that it's quote-unquote excellent. Inflation and higher prices, a top issue for voters less than a year out from the 2024 presidential election. A full 89% said that they are extremely or very concerned about the economy. 53% of voters said that they think Republicans would do a better job on handling inflation than Democrats. President Biden admitting that his Bidenomics message is not resonating with voters. Watch this from yesterday.
I acknowledge there's a disconnect between the numbers and how people feel about their place in the world right now. We can deal with the second part as well. We still have work to do, but our model for growing is delivering real results for all Americans.
Joining us right now to talk about that disconnect, former senior advisor to the Clintons. He is the chairman and CEO of the Stagwell Group and the Harris Poll chairman, Mark Penn. Mark, great to see you. Thanks very much for talking with us this morning about what's going on with these polls. How do you read it?
Well, it's a continuation that we've seen pretty much over the last 6 months. People are unhappy with the economy. They're unhappy with the president who is managing the economy. His ratings tend to be in the 40s, low 40s. And, you know, 2/3 or more are unhappy, and inflation is the issue. They're paying higher prices at the pump and at the gas station and at the supermarket. And they're upset about it.
Of course, they're upset about it because it's impacting their lives. We've got a new Marquette Law School poll finds that President Biden is trailing all three leading GOP presidential candidates. He's trailing President Trump. We know that. He's trailing Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and he's trailing former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley. 52% of voters said that they would choose Trump over President Biden. 51% of voters said that they would choose DeSantis over Biden. And 55% of voters said that they would choose Haley over Biden. A new Fox News poll also found that voters would choose Trump, DeSantis, and Haley over Biden. Mark, this is not going well for the Democrats.
No. Again, the Democrats did pretty well in the actual elections, but these polls show a systematic Biden weakness. Now, he's got a year in which he better improve the economy, improve immigration, improve crime, right? He's got a year left. So, you know, I've seen this thing before where it looks like incumbent presidents can't come back. But nevertheless, this is the way it looks right now. Trump and the other alternatives are strong. Nikki Haley in that poll, particularly strong.
Yeah, I know. So tell me about that. I mean, do you think with less than 2 months to go until the first votes in the GOP presidential election, the nomination race and former President Trump remains the frontrunner in New Hampshire, how does this play out? A new CNN New Hampshire primary poll found that 42% of likely Republican presidential primary voters would vote Trump. Nikki Haley is behind with 20% of support, Mark. Is this all about what happens with these trials around Trump? Because no one is even close to Trump, although it looks like Haley's support continues to rise.
Well, Trump's got great national polls in terms of the Republican primary in the 60s. But when you look here at New Hampshire, Haley has momentum. Other candidates, Scott just dropped out. Christie will get some votes there. DeSantis down to 9%. And so if Haley comes in the 25% here, that could be conceived of as a win, frankly, moving her into South Carolina and the rest of the primaries as the only opponent to Trump. And Trump here is polling significantly below 50. So, remember, primary electorates, they just move 10, 20, 30 points from primary to primary. That's how Trump won. That's how Trump can lose.
So what do you think? You think there's a portion of voters out there who say, I'm voting Trump, but if there's a conviction, if there's something that goes awry with these trials, I'm going to move right into Haley?
I think there is about 25% of Republicans who would move right into Haley. Plus, there's another 25% of Republicans who are there for Haley now. So if this thing goes in that direction, I think she has a real chance, to strike and get this nomination.
What about
Trump
yeah? Go ahead.
Is ahead. You got to give him the advantage. But primaries are change elements, right? And this is the only kind of change element left here.
So what are you expecting in terms of the nomination for the GOP? When will you feel like you can say with conviction, Trump will be it, Haley will be it?
Look, I think you're going to get a really good indication by the time you get to New Hampshire. No one thought that Haley could get anything in Iowa. If she gets double digits, that's a good position.
Yeah.
She gets 25 against a Trump 40 in New Hampshire. Everybody else drops out. Then you're going to go to South Carolina. Then you're going to move down these states in a two-way race. Trump is going to have to debate her. And will she win? She'll have a one-on-one chance, I think, here that's emerging. And she has a reasonable, let's give it a 30% chance of winning at this point. By the time you get to Super Tuesday, of course, you'll know.
What about the outsized sort of forces? You've got, on the one hand, RFK doing well, right, as an independent. Who does he take votes from? And on the other hand, you've also got Joe Manchin, probably going to throw his hat in the ring at some point. He's, suggesting that over the last couple of days. How do those two things play into things?
Robert F. Kennedy's a little bit of a wild card. I've seen polls where he takes from Trump. I've seen polls where he gives to Trump. I don't know that he's going to poll as well if voters really get to see him as much as he's an idea. They're looking for an alternative. Manchin would be really split right down the middle. He's a centrist candidate. If he takes on, I think he's going to take from both. If that's the way he goes. But we don't know if both of them are really going to get on the ballot enough, if they're really going to make runs. Right now, the big race here to be decided, is it going to be Trump and Biden? Looks like Biden is pretty much unseatable in the Democratic Party, even with Obama and I think Axelrod throwing some stones at him. And Trump looks similarly situated, a little weaker when you look at the numbers. And he's got one or two candidates, particularly Haley, who just might take him down.
Wow, Biden unseatable. That's incredible, even with the performance we've been talking about. Mark, it's always a pleasure to get your insights. Thanks very much, sir.